I'll look at the property.
Join me in the pledge. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have the approval of the February 2nd meeting minutes. We did not have them last. So I have read those before. I'll make a motion to approve the February 2nd meeting minutes. I'll second. All in favor? Aye. And we have the February 17th meeting minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Approval of claims. Questions, concerns?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Dusty?
Okay, Bridge 16, our community crossing funds was received on 3/2 in the amount of $608,343,000. Our match will be $152,085. We're still working on the right of way for Bridge 16. I got one more landowner to contact on that. And Barker Road, Garrett said this form we're using for our use of right of way on somebody else is still good, so we'll get with
That guy.
yeah, we'll get with the residents on Barker Road and see if we can get permission to do the work we need to do down there. We've been hauling chips for chip and seal work. And our overtime line, as we discussed before, is down to $400.
$400?
Yeah. And Gail, do we have time to advertise that before?
The council meeting,
The one of us will have to go to that, that's for overtime.
if I get it in the morning, first thing in the morning, that way it can be in Wednesday and Friday's paper. Well, it could be in Friday and Monday's paper even, for the Madison Courier.
How much are you gonna go back on Wednesday then?
I'm assuming they'll probably do like last time, maybe do 40 and the end of the time, maybe.
That's what I did, and you guys just let me know, wouldn't it?
Yeah. If that's what,
Hopefully we won't have a lot of overtime
15 days.
storms for tree removal or something like that.
yeah.
Hopefully the snow's about over.
Yeah.
Well, I hope
Except for the rain.
we've had enough of it. And the other thing, I would like to try to do some blacktop this year out of our 73 fund. I just haven't decided how much. We do have some extra money in the back of that fund that I would have to move forward. But I think until I decide what roads and how much we need, we'll maybe do that the next meeting. So we get a ballpark price. Because normally we do CCMG to do our blacktop.
Right.
I got a bridge in there this year and I got a little extra money in 73 that I'd like to.
And we have done other blacktop size CCMG in the past as well.
Yeah. And I think it's all I got for now. Oh, no, the two slide repairs, you get on the side if you want to do engineering on at least one of them or design build. If we do, like we discussed before, if we do engineering, we gotta pay for that up front. If we do a design build, you may get different scopes of work, but they'll all have to meet a certain criteria for federal highway standards. But the engineering, if you do a design build, the engineering basically paid more into design. We don't have to pay it up front.
What would the cost?
Just for engineering on the one slide, we're looking at anywhere from 35 to 40,000. And most generally, if on that design there, it would probably be around 9 to 10,000 engineering in the design build. But we don't have to pay for it up front, they just turn it in their bid.
How'd you guys
Basically,
handle
engineers themselves.
How'd you guys handle stuff like that in the past, Jim?
I don't think we've ever done design build in the past, since I've been a commissioner. Maybe we have, but I don't remember
No,
that.
I know it. And when you do a design build, it's a little different from your regular bid because you might get pricing all over the board because of different designs versus if you put your own engineering in, your own advertising for bid, you can kind of control the scope of work. So a design build, the only way we can control it is use federal highway standards, which will have, it could be as many as 5 different fixes for that slip, but as long as they all meet federal highway standards, they're all reasonable. But you're still probably gonna have up and down pricing.
I would probably just stick to engineer.
I think the good thing about engineer build is at least your quotes are gonna be apples to apples rather than 3 different or however many quotes you got, that many different designs, because then it becomes, so I'm not an expert, so I don't know the difference from one versus the other. And I understand your point is they all meet federal, state or federal highway requirements. But I don't know which one's better than the other personally, right?
Yeah,
We've never had any issue with engineer build.
no, it's just,
Cost.
it costs you more money because we got to pay for the engineering.
But we know what we're getting for the most part.
So you want to stick with engineering?
Yes.
And I think it's hard to tell, if one contractor is competitor versus another if you got 3 different ones, right? So if they're all bidding the same thing, you can tell if they're competitive, not 3 people go with 3 different designs. It's hard to,
Right.
it's hard to
It-
tell, right?
It is, yeah. It is. And I think that's all I had. Do we have anything else, Jim?
Although,
How's the 2 new trucks?
How's
the 2 new trucks?
Good, 3 to
3 new trucks.
Yes, we're doing good. We just got them plumbed up this morning, December box. So far, they're doing good.
Then any more, striping of the roads coming up?
When we get some warmer weather,
Yeah.
it may be more towards mid to late summer, maybe even fall. We got a lot of chipping steel work we gotta do this year. We got shorted 1,000 tons from Hilltop last year on rock, so we're gonna try to make that up this year, which will be about 30 miles of chipping steel we're gonna do this year. But that will also help our pager rating. Gary, do you remember on the pager, if we get that up to a 6 or higher this year, then we can split them funds next year?
I think so. The other thing, and I'll have to look into this a little bit more, what did you guys decide to do on the AI road?
We got it, we got all the software now.
I think that's also gonna help with funding. I think they're gonna give
Okay.
some incentive for that too.
Good.
If I'm remembering, I'll check with it, but I think.
And so basically, if we can get our pager rating up to a 6 or higher, we can split our money that comes into the MVH fund. We have to split it 50-50, half goes in 73 and half goes in 76. But if we get our pager rating up, we can split it 60-40 and put more money in 76 when we struggle.
Where's council on the wheel tax? Doesn't that have to go through them?
It does.
We're gonna have it passed before certain time too, right? Before September.
We've got time, but if they're gonna do it, then we need to start that discussion so they can have some
Yeah,
hearings.
that's why I keep saying it in a public meeting, because
Yeah.
I see it coming down to where it's last minute.
Yeah. And if we wait too long too, we don't get that extra match.
Correct. As long as you get it done by the time frame, then you'll get it for next year.
Alright, so I got
Brian?
How we doing, gentlemen? Good to see you. I tried not to wear something too green or too white
Right.
today. I know I didn't want to
Good call.
get you fired up, Joe. It was a good game, though, either way. So, well, as we discussed last time I was here, I think we were attempting to obtain as much data as we could from your current broker. I know Commissioner Harrison's efforts were significant, and I really do appreciate Gail and Tina getting everything over to us. Unfortunately, the real meat and bones of what we needed came at about 10:30 p.m. on Saturday night. So with that being the case, we have had a chance to slightly review what was in your loss runs, but nothing significant. Typically this would be like a 2 to 3 week process for us to go through claim by claim, seeing the important things that we need to address. So we've done an overview. That overview essentially is, without getting into a claim by claim thing, I'm sure you don't want to do that, is that you've had some pretty extraordinary claims. And those claims are driving some pretty extraordinary costs. And I think to the level of sophistication that you operate, from the sheriff's office to roads and potential design build projects and all the things that you do, I think it's really important that your account be assigned a risk manager, a professional risk manager. And that would be somebody that goes on a case-by-case basis, not just during the process of renewal, but monitors your account throughout the year to say, hey, we're going to catch this, or we're going to catch this, or we're going to see how this goes, and manage these things on a case-by-case concierge service, so that we can help capture things as they happen and mitigate any potential liability or risk that the county may face as a result of them. That would include making sure tort claims are appropriately brought to the insurance carrier to make sure they're covered before the runtime runs out. There's a lot of issues that I have with my clients across the board where they just kind of forget to submit a claim and then find out 30 days or 60 days later, the insurance company's like, well, we're not going to cover that now. So I've just had a school recently have that issue with a lady falling. So with that said, especially Commissioner Peters, Jamie, I know that you really had hopes that we could bring back numbers for you to show what a delta or difference is. There's two pieces to that I want to address. First and foremost is the insurance space on property and liability works a lot different than the medical, like when we went head to head with the other brokers. And the reason for that is because anybody can go to Anthem, anybody can go to Blue Cross Blue Shield, Aetna, whatever, right? And they'll just kind of duplicate quotes across the board. But if we were to enter the market on your behalf, we would essentially block that market for your existing broker and tie its hands. So typically these decisions are made on service and expectations of service and who you think would be the best person to kind of go through this process. The account team that I would assign to you has over 50 years of experience in the municipal space on property and liability insurance. We would include that risk manager that we talked about, which would begin, quite frankly, tomorrow if you decided you want to work with us. And we would begin to assess the data as it is. The renewal is complete, but in having conversations, without getting into too great a detail, or I've had at least one conversation with the department head who stopped me and believed that they had significant lapses in coverage in their insurance. So those are the kind of things that we would spend the next 7 to 10 days identifying, closing the gaps. We'd be back in 2 weeks with the solutions that you guys have, potentially your second meeting, just depending on, well, it would have to be 2 weeks, wouldn't it? So that you guys can kind of see where things are. Of course, we'll have conversations with the auditor's office just to let them know what we've identified. And we go from there. The property and casualty really isn't a space where people save money. As I think I said in the last meeting, it's dependent on the cost of a 2x4 what it costs to change brick and mortar if something were to burn down, or what it costs to replace a building or a vehicle. So those are the predominant drivers of costs. What we would focus on doing is ensuring that everything is appropriately covered so that there are no surprises for the county, meaning that, something happens and then you find out, ooh, this isn't covered the way we want to, or, ooh, this is really going to impact our general fund for the year. While at the same time making sure that we hit the markers on service. So you guys feel like this is your asset, you have access to it immediately, and you're able to engage with it in a timely manner rather than in a prolonged one, as I think you may have experienced over the last couple months. So with that said, I'm here again one more time to ask for your vote if you would consider making Henriette and myself the agent of record for your property and liability insurance. And I'm happy to answer any questions I'm sure you have.
And Gary, you have questions about?
Do we have a copy of our current brokers?
Some of my notes are in there as well.
Ryan, did you have something you wanted to say about the experience or
Just with dealing with
something that was brought up? You
I've
missed-
had
I know
a
you
couple
weren't
issues
last-
over the past, since actually like in September, October, we've been working on our liability policy for the training center. And it's just one email after another. I think we're finally getting close to wrapping that up, but I mean, we're months into that process and it's very slow. And then in February, when I was doing our provider cert, I asked for our vehicle liability insurance. And the response was, who wants it? And what's their address? And I said, I need to upload this for a provider cert. And a day later, I got it. It's our vehicle liability.
Did you have a lapse in coverage though?
No,
Yeah, you didn't have any lapses. There weren't any lapse in coverage.
Well,
He's
the-
talking about customer service.
right.
Yeah, I'm not saying anything about the customer service. I'm talking about the lapse. There wasn't a lapse in coverage.
no lapses, just trying to get stuff done. It's been very troublesome.
And you'd said it last meeting on the freezing rate. That there was a rate that you said that you would freeze for a couple of years.
Yes. So what we are offering, again, and typically this isn't the direction we would go, but you guys are a great client of ours on the employee benefit space. And it's really important from, at least from my perspective, outsider looking in, right, that especially if we're managing the major medical, that we know at least what's going on with the workers' comp and the various things that occur in that space. So what we had offered was that we would reduce your fees by 20% on both the property casualty and employee benefit side for a period of 24 months. So, and then after 24 months, the employee benefit side would return to normal and the property and casualty side would permanently remain at a 20% reduction. So the intent was to say, hey, we understand, because we haven't been able to obtain this data and bring a more traditional project to you and say, hey, this is what we think we can do. We'd like to put some skin in the game and give you the opportunity to save a little money so that irrespective of, the direction of this vote, you feel like you've saved something or have had the opportunity to save something as an organization. And to Commissioner Peters' point, last meeting, it's not $1 million, it's not tens of thousands of dollars, but we wanted to give that as an opportunity to say, hey, if you give a little, we're happy to give a little as well.
The coverage isn't due until 4/20.
Do
Our
we have
current
any-
carrier was gonna come to the first meeting with pricing and stuff so that we know what the pricing could be, what it would go up. I mean, Jamie was here when it went like triple almost, so.
And I'm sorry, yeah, go ahead.
Well, I'm just saying, you guys can do what you want, but the need to sign tonight and not knowing the prices might not give him the same 2 or 3 weeks and come back at the beginning of April with a price. So you know what he's gonna offer, if that's what you're needing.
Well, I think my question is this, I believe this was all due April 1st. I think that was the guideline, the direction that
It's
we.
not due the commissioners meeting they'll have at the beginning of April, or this is what they had done, and then it's
Yeah,
due
but-
for renewal to 4/20.
Right, so if you're correct, and that's awesome, my
And
argument would be,
It's 4/20.
well, that perhaps might be with the broker, but for the actual plan, it always starts on the first of the month. It's never like a 15th or 20th or anything, so the contracted stuff itself for the actual policy.
I'm
That
just going
isn't,
by what our broker that was here last week said,
I understand.
not until the 4/20. so.
I understand, but this, from all the documentation we've looked at, this is an April 1st renewal date, which means we would have to complete our work between now and you have a decision made as to which direction, irrespective of what broker you go with, by April 1st. So that's why we're hopeful that, if you decide you want to work with us, we're going to work from, what is today, the 2nd, from the 3rd on to try to get this done as completely as possible. And the reality is, in all likelihood, we're going to have to accept the renewal as it already stands. It's likely finished, it's likely complete. Those are all, I think, issues that you're going to have whether you work with us or work with them. The difference is we believe, because of the services we provide, that we're going to be able to look at this more holistically as an organization that has a significant book of business in the municipal space, identify the gaps that we've identified time and time again with our clients that we've had in the past, while simultaneously providing y'all with the service that I think you should expect as an organization who's paying for this kind of professional service.
Yeah, and, my opinion is, the other company now is going to come in with a 20% reduction someplace, going to come in with, hey, I'll provide you risk management. The other company could have been here the last month, but I didn't see any correspondence until Ryan started saying he wanted our other business. Am I missing this?
They
Res-
usually
respectfully,
wouldn't
Joe.
correspond with you until they come to the meeting. I'm not trying to, I'm.
Well, here's my
No, ma'am,
problem. When
please.
I
I
call
mean-
personally and I ask for something and I'm told why 4 times, that's none of your business why. I pay you for professional service and you have no right to question me as to
Right.
why am I requesting information on the county that I represent and the county that pays you. You have no business asking me why. And then coming right out and saying, well, are you shopping for others? That's none of your business, bub. And I get tired of that. We pay you for a service.
He asked
There's no
over,
business questioning me.
he asked over 60 days ago for information, and he got the runaround. How I see it,
From the.
from your office.
He didn't get the gun run around from my office because I sent it to him a couple of times. I wasn't here last meeting to defend myself, so I sent it to him. Then I sent it to him over the weekend after I'd already sent Trident, and then he wants a policy number.
Okay, so then it
Well,
was
I
the
can
insurance
tell you.
company not sending it to him.
I
Fair.
don't know
So
if
then,
that's one
again,
or not.
Customer service from the other insurance company, in my viewpoint, is lacking. Am I missing this?
Oh, I don't think you're missing it, but what is that customer service worth to you?
I mean, I haven't had any trouble with them, and I'm not saying that they didn't. I know that Ryan has had, everyone, not this Ryan.
Here's my greatest
but-
concerns, aside from customer service. Insurance companies should provide full coverage. You should have no worries whatsoever. And in a business that we are, in a county business, we represent emergency medical, we represent sheriff's departments. Some bad things happen all the time.
Right.
Okay, I'm currently listed in 3 lawsuits in my professional career. I've done nothing wrong for
Right.
no other reason than I'm employed there and I know what was happening. So I'm being sued 3 times right now. If I have a gap or a lax or crappy customer service and they're not taking care of their end, what does that result in? That's costing the county hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars. And I don't know what it's worth. I don't. And I agree with you, the cost is kind of a worrisome thing. But what I am concerned with is if you're questioning me and you can't provide the director of EMS the information he requests in months' time, are you really representing me as a county? Or do you have all your ducks in a row to protect me from lawsuits, hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars? Are you doing your job? And when you can't answer simple questions or provide me simple information, I have to question that. Do you have your ducks in a row? Are you representing me in the manner in which I requested and I'm paying you to do so? Are you really doing your job? I have to question that. And I can only question that based on customer service. I'd sure as hell hate to go before court and they haven't been doing their job, and that's how I find out. And now we're screwed, and we've already paid out hundreds of thousands in lawsuits in this county. How long do we roll the dice and risk lawsuits, which are inevitable? They're going to happen. They're probably multi-lawsuits right now in that jail, if I was gonna bet on it. There's probably a lawsuit against Ryan right now. He might not know. Are we protected? And just based on the fact that I can't get a straight answer out of a company that I'm paying, that concerns me. It concerns me greatly.
You wouldn't hear me say that I think that our current provider is responsive or provides great customer service, because I believe quite the opposite. I think they're not very responsive and their customer service is not good. But again, not knowing what that difference in cost is, I don't know what it's worth to me, whether it's worth it to me or not, to have better customer service. That's just where I'm at with it.
If you don't mind, I'll just jump in on a few things. First and foremost, I work with Gail's office all the time, and I know she puts her best foot forward in helping us with the things that we do, especially on major medical. And I really appreciate the efforts that she and Tina put forth, so I wanted to thank you for that. A lot of this stuff is, I think, just kind of somebody from this industry looking in, is procrastination or potentially, the opposite of cooperating from your current broker. And that's probably why Gail's had some troubles getting some of the pretty basic data that we would have. In terms of your concerns about costs, we would accept the existing renewal. So the only difference in costs that you're going to see is the 20% reduction in whatever fee you're paying this individual right now. And we would, of course, bring you any gaps in coverage, and you can determine whether you want to fill those with individual policies or different policies. In many cases, those are attachable to your existing policy and cost no more. We just happen to be aware of them because we have other organizations just like yourself, dozens of municipalities across the state that experience the same thing, whether they have a police force or an EMS or a pool. There's a lot of things. I know you guys don't have a pool, but there's a lot of different things that happen across the spectrum that we could capture and make sure that we close those gaps. So,
And when I was saying, I want to be very clear that I'm not going to judge an insurance company based on Gail's office. I'm
Right.
in no way talking about Gail's office. I'm speaking about the fact that when I talk to you, I've been involved in the emails between you all. I've seen Gail giving you things. When I ask, or Jamie calls and asks, or Joe, there should be no whys to this. It should be, what is it you need? And I'm going to send that to you. Why? Because I'm paying you to do that. I shouldn't be accused of shopping around. So what if I'm shopping around? That's what government does. That's what businesses do. They shop.
Everybody does.
You're an idiot if you don't shop around. I'm
Right.
very blunt about this. My feelings. And then that rubbed me the wrong way. Not once, but 4, maybe it was 5 times. I got the same thing. So that sends me in a different direction in my personal view. I still agree with Jamie on the cost thing. But from what I could find in the 2 weeks since we've met, it just proves in the internet is there really isn't a whole lot of difference in property and casualty liability and all that insurance.
But you're willing to take the current renewal rate.
yes, and so the reality is your broker should have been here in December, letting you know where this was going to be by April 1st. And that's how we engage with all of our clients. This would have been something that we would have had wrapped up and completed about 90 days ago. Very similar to the experience you'll be having here in your next upcoming renewal on the employee benefit space. The reason why we do it that way is because we understand that you do 2 meetings a month and you can't make unilateral decisions on a Monday or a Wednesday. You have to do it within the time frame in which government operates. So we would have had all of these answers. You would have seen your renewal. You would know what your cost is. You would know which direction everything is going at least 60 days ago, with an understanding from 90 to 120 days out of a good direction of where it's going to end up landing. that's the model that we operate within, so that you can make decisions like this with the maximum flexibility of time. And that gives you, to your point, the opportunity to shop if you'd like to look elsewhere on these kind of things. But we believe as an organization that it's easier for organizations like yourself to make these kind of decisions when you have the maximum amount of time allowable to do so. So to answer your question, yes, we would have to accept the existing renewal as it stands. But you don't shop property and liability insurance necessarily for cost. What you do is you buy up to the tolerance of risk you can afford and you can tolerate as an organization. You've already done that. Now what we're going to do is we're going to come in, we're going to do our audit, and we're going to say, missed that, and they missed that, and they missed that.
I'm not an insurance expert, but
Right.
I can tell you, we haven't always had Gardner. So how we ended up with Gardner is we shopped it. There was a significant opportunity or savings for the county. So maybe you're right today, but 6 years ago, that wasn't the case.
So, and you're absolutely right, because we're sitting in a hard market right now. And that's the reality that property and casualty sits in. Employee benefits will rise and fall depending on your disease states, depending on what medications people are taking, all of those things. But as long as inflation is driving cost of replacement in a hard market, we're kind of stuck. Now, the good news is the market is softening. So I would expect a better renewal than you probably would have gotten last year. Even with your significant claims that we've seen, the thing that we're offering is that we manage those claims on an individual basis with a risk manager so that we capture those things and mitigate the financial damage that they create. We can't control what breaks or what storms come through or what happens with police activity, but we certainly can have a plan and an individual that works on those by a case-by-case basis to minimize the risk, financial risk and total risk to the county as we do it. And honestly, respectfully, we just do the basics. You know, you all know that if you need something from the employee benefits, it shows up the next day, and that we're extraordinarily transparent with the way that we operate. You know, I had a pretty, I had a minor issue today on the employee benefits, and it was resolved within an hour because we picked up the phone and we took care of it. And all we ask is that you allow us to extend that kind of operation to the other side, which, you know, may or may not cost millions depending on what accidents happen this year.
So, Ryan, you said, first let me ask, do you have all the information you need now?
I do as of Saturday evening, yes.
So,
However, we do not have the time to do
but you said last meeting you needed 2 to 3 weeks, right?
to complete the work, at minimum. So you're going to have to make a decision on your renewal in the next meeting.
Correct.
So that's my 2 weeks.
Right.
So, but my point of that is I cannot access, engage, or work on any of that because that's how the insurance companies operate without being your broker. So zero work will be completed by us over the next 2 weeks if we're not your broker, is what I'm trying to say.
I don't understand. We're covered over the next 2 weeks. So what's the issue?
I guess I don't understand the premise of your question. We need the time to complete the gaps analysis to say, hey, this is missing, and bring our recommendations for you as your broker so that we can tie it up and do a neat bow and get it decided in the next 2 weeks. If I come back in the next 2 weeks and you give us the business, I will have accomplished exactly zero things for you. So because it's all done by then. That's my point.
I guess I'm not following here. Can you help me understand?
So I think there's two different decision points here, and that's why I was checking here first for the first decision point of who's your broker. Sometimes your brokerage agreements will have exclusive stuff there, so you can't go to a new broker during the term of your current agreement. I didn't see that in here anywhere. So it sounds like you have flexibility to choose a different broker. The broker is who goes to all the different places, analyzes your risk, and finds out the best insurance company. So I think his point is he needs to be activated as your broker before he can take any actions on the ultimate question of new insurance in April.
So they're locked out.
Yeah, so two separate questions. First, broker. Second, actually, what's our insurance policy? Does that make sense? And his
Well,
point is.
I
he
understand
can't
what
do
you're
that.
telling me, but no, it makes absolutely no sense to me. How are you supposed to shop
You don't.
or
That's,
get competitive pricing if that's the case?
So
So
how would
you-
you
'cause you
renew it
wanna-
this price? How are you gonna renew it this
You
price if you don't know what it is?
well, because that's exactly what we've handed him here. These are agent of record letters. Essentially what it would allow us to do is become your agent and take over the process as it stands at this moment. So that doesn't mean that everything that was done beforehand disappears. It just means it's now handed to us. We complete what work remains, if any, and then identify the gaps and cover the basics on customer service. Again, and I'm really sorry it's worked out this way, but you should have seen this at least 60 days ago and known exactly what you were paying so that you would have had this conversation then. You
It
know,
wouldn't matter if we knew what we was paying or not. We have nothing to compare it to.
well, that's the problem,
Your
Jamie,
point
is no matter
is-
what, you have to make this decision in 2 weeks and you don't even know what the cost is gonna be. So what flexibility do you have to even shop it around if they come in 2 weeks and say, this is the answer, and you look at that and goes, that sucks. You know, that's not what we
I'm
want.
in the same boat if I award it to you. It's no different.
Well, you wouldn't have
Your
been
point is you
had
wanna
we
be
been
able
in
to see their
charge.
Results
So-
before, you wanna see the end result, like, you wanna be able to say, both of you go out and do this, and then both of you bring back your best results.
Correct,
That's what you want,
correct.
and that's the brokerage aspect is you unfortunately pick who your person is, and you're authorizing them as your agent to go.
Exactly.
Fine. So I see where you're confused. You would like to see both of them bring you the best proposal.
They can't
That's
do
not,
that.
yeah, that's unfortunately in this market, that's not possible. In employee benefits, absolutely. So we would end up locking each other out. And
Sounds
then,
like a monopoly to me.
well, call your congressman, sir.
Not your state rep. So
Sounds
that's,
like I'm in the wrong business.
Well, you would be surprised, maybe you're not, at how difficult it can be to earn business in this case. But once you do,
Based on that, yeah, I can see how that would be.
yeah, but once you earn it, you work it and you service it with your dear life. And that's what we've done on your employee benefit space. And I think we can fill that, that void that's been communicated by the commissioners to do so. We're a professional service. We're not the insurance company. We're here to go out and shop on your behalf. That aspect is done. What we need to do now is to make sure that that homework is correct, have the risk managers go through the paperwork, and then service it as, to Commissioner Harrison's point, service it as it deserves. You pick up the phone, you need something, we should be able to return the call.
So at the end of the day, you're out shopping, that all has to run through us. So we don't like to call.
We will
for
make
something
no
that
decisions
we
without your
consider
consent, of course, yeah.
Negate that quickly.
It would be our job, especially coming into next year, and we would come back in about 6 months and say, okay, here's how it's operating, here's how things are going, have you bought any new things, has anything burned down, what have we potentially missed, right? And then we'd give you an idea as the direction as to where things are going. And then we would come back about 90 days before renewal and say, hey, this is the direction we think it's going. And about 60 days out, we'll say, this is what we want you to do, what do you think? And then you can go, yeah, that's great. Or you can say, no, come back in 2 weeks, this is what we want you to switch.
But you
And
can
that's the
also
part
come
I
back
think you're missing.
And say, oh, you have all these voids, and now my cost that was 400,000, 600,000 now, and you're the expert, we're not gonna say, oh, well, we don't need that coverage, right?
Well, we would justify each of the coverages. One of the things that I
I
think,
understand
yeah.
that, but you understand my point. I'm kind of saying I don't trust you without saying I don't trust you.
I hear you.
And it's not that I really don't trust you, it's, there's an opportunity for that to happen, right?
We don't make any additional income by you purchasing more or being overinsured. So, and we certainly risk the business if somebody comes in.
Your fees are a percentage of the,
As I understand it, there's a existing broker arrangement where you guys pay a flat fee. Am I not understanding that correctly?
Is there any other agreement that we have specifically with the broker?
Okay, so you're getting percentage of, so
I think
those
the fees
numbers
are a
are,
percentage of the
yeah.
policy, whatever.
So those numbers are set by the insurance company, not us. We have no control over that. But as I said before, any additional fillers, we would bring to you and say, hey, this is the cost benefit ratio. And if you decide not to go forward with it, that's obviously your choice. But in many cases, they come as attachments, meaning that we can add them to the plan without additional costs. There are things that should have just been captured and put in there. In other cases, like if we go out and find that there's no errors and omissions insurance, or if we go out and find out that there's no directors and officers insurance, which to your point covers you guys if somebody sues the county as individuals, you know, those are the kind of things we come back and say, hey, you really need these, and here's why. And that may cause an increase.
I'm not saying it's okay to not know what you don't know, right? Because,
Well, yeah, the
there's
ostrich,
a cost associated with what you don't know. If it just so happens that you need it, right? But
absolutely. And that's the gamble here, right? Who knows? Maybe nothing happens and you have the most perfect year in 2026. You know, the idea of assessment of risk is that we mitigate as much as we possibly can and tolerate what we can afford. And if you feel confident that the county is in that position, then, you know, then there's no reason for me to be here. But if you feel like that kind of assessment brought to your attention puts you at ease, and that's something that we can certainly provide.
yeah, I don't. We awarded the business to the current broker with the understanding that they've done everything to make sure that the county's protected, right? We would be doing the same thing with you, right?
Well, not really, because I've never had the data to show you. But what we would do is.
You're not gonna get the data because you're not allowed to give it to you unless we make you that.
Well, we
Right.
received most of the data, but like I said, 36 hours ago. So, and that just puts us, that's kind of what I would call an insurance filibuster, where now you're stuck with either making this decision now or sticking with that person. A lot of brokers do that tactically as a survival act. But for me, we don't engage in that behavior because we believe that this is your account, this is your information, you have a right to it, and you'll stick with us if we demonstrate integrity and good service, through that process.
Because your point is, you could give them a ballpark. You can't give them specifics, but looking at the data, you could give them a ballpark of what you could expect. But because you didn't have the information in time, then that's why you can't even give them a ballpark today. Is that a fair characterization?
So once we are your broker, you see these three documents here, the Indiana Public Employers Plan, Trident Insurance, and Beasley Group will immediately release all of the renewals to us. And then I will be able to reach out to you and say, this is where you're at. So, but until then, we do not control that. Your current broker does. And you haven't been given access to those renewals despite the fact that you have one meeting left to make that decision, which means obviously I have not yet either. So, and I know
Once you're our broker, right?
right. But here's the difference. This has been in the broker's hand, or at least a very strong ballpark understanding of where things are going to be for at least 50 days.
What would have made the difference if you have to be our broker in order to get the information? What makes the difference whether 60 days ago or today?
Because you would have been able to say, hey, I really like what you've done, let's go with that. Or, man, we really need to change this and this and this, or this isn't acceptable. And we could have shopped on your behalf. We could have modified the plan on your behalf. We could have a la carte the whole thing.
Same thing, right?
Well, do you know what your renewal is? If you don't, then no, we've run out of time. That's not possible, sir, unfortunately. So if you haven't seen your current renewal, what you're going to have to accept is what shows up, or you're not going to be insured. And that's the rub here. That would not have been your experience with us. You would have had the flexibility to make changes and shop the market as appropriate to you. And that is the process that we engage in so that you have the maximum time to make those decisions. Whereas now, no matter what, you have to say yes, or you don't have insurance. And that's not a position any of our clients are ever in.
We basically have 30 days with the current broker to do that.
No, you do not. So
That's April 1st.
I understand that, but most insurance carriers will not accept, because of the actuary process, will not accept applications before a minimum after a minimum of 90 days. So Astra, the organization you used to formerly be with, would not consider your application unless they had at least a 90-day lead time to look at it. So there is no time left, unfortunately, for your broker to bring these things to shop. Not that you would have had to have looked at it this meeting anyway, because no matter what, you have to make a decision in the next meeting and approve the renewal so that it's effective for April 1st. and again, Jamie, I know it sucks. It's just the nature of the market. And again, I don't know how else to say it other than this would have been a process we would have engaged in months ago with you so that you had the opportunity to make these decisions before the final meeting.
Just, our current broker was not planning on being here until the first, at the, or the second, whatever the first meeting is in April, just to let you guys know.
And if what Ryan is saying is correct, that really doesn't make sense,
I agree.
that they would wait till the 1st of April.
That
But
makes
again, my
no sense.
ignorance, I don't,
Well, that would give us 2 meetings to approve which renewal,
Right.
what company you want to go with, if he was shopping for somebody else other than Trident.
That allows us to shop for internal companies. but
We
that
would
locks
gain
you
access
down.
to all that shopping as it stands as well,
Strategic move.
as your broker.
And just for this purpose, I get what you're saying. I mean, it does say here on our effective date through Trident that it's April 20th to April 20th.
Perfect. Okay, so we do have, so that's, if that's the case,
He got the copies of all that good stuff.
yeah, we got that last week. If that's the case, then I have the flexibility here to go out and really do a good job if you guys give us the opportunity today. So that's an additional 20 days. That's kind of what I was begging you for 2 weeks ago. And it really gives us the time to get the things that we need accomplished and to do it right, instead of it being an absolute all hands on deck rush job that we would have gone through between now. So it's a very highly unusual date. So 420. So what I've given to Garrett here are 3 agents of record letters.
Do you have an agreement signed separately, or do you just want?
We can do it either way. We would present in the next meeting an agreement on the savings opportunity for the employee benefits and property and liability. Obviously, we want to talk to you guys as to how that works out. It might be easier to begin the employee benefits saving on 1/1/27 so that you can measure out a full 24 months and then have this one start immediately, or we could try to get both to work immediately. We'd have to work backwards with the insurance company to get that to work, but either way, there's an option. There's no contract that we would ask you for, so essentially if you were looking to leave at some point, same thing on the employee benefits, you'd be free to do so. Obviously incentivizing us to do the best possible job on your behalf. So but the piece of the puzzle here, the biggest piece of the puzzle here that I think we can clear up for y'all, and I've heard frustrations about this tonight, is just the service. Pick up the phone, get you the data as you need it, answer your questions, be present in a timely manner so that you can make decisions in a timely manner and not be pigeonholed into decisions of a financial nature, and offer you a little savings in the process.
And then the only thing, just to confirm one more time, because the only legal part that I'm concerned about is we don't have a current contract specifically with our broker. So there's no provisions
This
that,
is the only thing we don't have.
so we have flexibility, just like you said, with his authorization, we would have flexibility to move to somebody else. Sounds like we have flexibility from our current broker as well. Besides that, it's your decision.
so just so I'm clear on one final thing. There's really no way to shop property and liability insurance in terms of a potential moving that potentially to someone else and then being able to come back to you and give you part numbers.
Unfortunately, you're shopping the broker who will then shop it for you, because they'll be going to the same people.
Yeah.
They'll all be
So-
going to the same-
So in essence, the only real reason to think about going to someone else is because you're not happy with their customer service.
Customer service
Or they haven't represented you properly, I guess.
customer service haven't represented you properly, or if you feel like if you have a problem in terms of you don't trust that you're appropriately insured, you're either overinsured or underinsured, that's kind of their job as well to help make sure that you know, all right, are we appropriately insured?
And that's where the trust factor comes in, because none of us here know
A lot of it's trust. I mean, these services, and that's why, in statute, you have the flexibility that you don't have to bid anything out. With services, you really have to have a trust factor with that person. Same as attorneys, same as a lot of different things. You could shop for cheap, but it's kind of like, you gotta trust the person.
I mean, just to be frank, it's kind of a shit sandwich, right?
It is. There's a saying in our,
Am I
Cause you're looking for
$100,000 a year worth of unsatisfied, or am I $20,000 a year worth of unsatisfied?
Because you're looking for savings, you're looking for end result savings.
Well, I certainly don't want a negative impact.
Yeah.
I'm not necessarily looking for savings, but I certainly don't want a negative impact.
Yeah.
And again, I know Ryan has said, I promise you won't have a negative impact, but he can also say, well, you have voids here, and here, which ultimately the cost of the county is going to be greater. And if those voids are there, then we should know about them, so don't misunderstand me. But sitting here making a decision on something that's totally unknown is very difficult for me.
it's a little bit of fear of the unknown. We have a saying in our industry, you pick the horse you want to ride on before you go to the market. And that's.
We're gonna talk about horses later, Ryan.
So, listen, I love you guys. I love this county. I love this community, and I will put my best foot forward. I can't guarantee that things are perfect and that we're not going to find things that may be difficult, but I can promise you that you will have the best possible information to make financial decisions as you go through this process. And we're going to put every bit of effort as we do on the employee benefits into this, which I hope has been meaningful and impactful for your organization. And tying up excess risk or potential liabilities is probably one of the most important things that you could do as an organization, because it's the one thing that it goes after immediately when there's no coverage is the general fund, is the financial leverage that the county has to operate. So we'll give you every piece of information that you need to make sure that your risk is within your tolerance and your affordability, and we'll cover every aspect of service to make sure that you're comfortable with that process as we engage it. You'll never call me and get a no, but you know that already.
Well, I'm gonna say this based on Garrett's words, that this is, and Jamie's, it's a shit sandwich, and it is. It falls down to the unknown, to the trust factors. And I know from probably almost a year ago, probably I called Henriette and asked about a medical insurance issue that we had, and it turned out that it didn't involve our medical insurance company at all. But they took care of it anyway. That was a provider issue at a different hospital, and they covered that, and they didn't have to do that. So if this is gonna be a trust factor at this point, I'm gonna make a motion to switch Switzerland County's property casualty and liability insurance to Henriette.
I'll second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, gentlemen. I really appreciate your trust. We're going to get to work right away. I'm not sure if you need to vote on it, but I do need those signs so that I can get them to the insurance companies. I got to get to work tomorrow. So,
So just to clarify, when you say switch, that motion, what you guys just did is you're terminating your brokerage agreement with prior, and then you're entering into an agreement here. And so with that understanding, then you should be fine just to execute these documents in the normal course of the employment of them as the broker. So that's something that's
you could sign it,
these aren't
please,
specific
and just,
contracts or anything, these are just, you're authorizing him to move pursuant to what you guys just did. He's the new broker.
Do we need to make an effective date or anything like that?
it's all on there. The only thing I'd ask is a wet signature and your title at the bottom for the 3 documents. And I have copies for you here as well.
To clarify as well, and it might be good to do a motion to this effect.
So I'll read this. So this would be, dear underwriter, this will confirm that effective immediately, which is March 2nd, 2026, we have appointed Hub International Midwest Limited. Hub International Company is our exclusive insurance agent and broker with respect to all cyber liability lines of insurance. Is that fair?
Yeah, so what each of these are, is these are each of the individual letters that you're just notifying them that he can go and get that information. But in terms of an effective date, yeah, each one is each individual person. These are just, he may have more of these that need to be executed, but because he's the broker, these should just be formal.
So basically, we should just make a motion making Hub International our broker.
That's our parent company, yes.
And then I would, yeah, so just to clarify and clean things up, I would just make a nice clean motion that says effective as of today, we're terminating our prior broker. And then we are appointing this company as our new broker. And then just effective as of today, that's a nice clean motion. And then you guys can sign any of these. These are just, this isn't a formal contract. These are just letters he's sending to people that represents the action you guys just took. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Do they need to rescind?
So is it Henry
motion? He just-
Henriot, Hub International, a Hub International company,
Frankly,
yes.
you could probably just amend the motion and somebody can say. And the minutes should just reflect that.
That amended motion, if that's what you.
Okay, so I'll make a motion to terminate our current broker, casualty liability insurance, and replace them with Henriot Hub International Insurance for effective today, March 2nd, 2026.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Thank you, gentlemen. We'll get to work. Hey, I just wanted to say,
And then any of you guys sign that, and then frankly, if there's immediate signatures that are needed, if there's another insurance company that comes up or needs to act, then.
there might be additionals once we get into the data, absolutely. If you would
guys
just
are fine
add
to
your
sign
title
them.
as well at the bottom, that would be helpful,
Do what?
Those will need,
under your signature.
those will need formal action, because these are just kind of, he needs this to be able to collect stuff and give it back.
So also under old business then, wasn't on here tonight, was the waste bag ordinance for horses.
Now I see why you're talking about horses. Hey, before I let you go, I just wanted to say, you guys make me work harder than most, and I really appreciate that. So, thank you. We're gonna work hard for you, equally as hard.
Thanks, Ryan.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'd ask that we put this on, we approved, actually Garrett created an ordinance and we tabled it because we don't have the code enforcement officer position filled yet. But I thought we probably should go ahead and ask Garrett or someone to start working on a job description for that position.
Right.
And I don't think we can do it because I think we need to understand, or I can't do it, I'll put it that way, because I don't know what legal authority that position absolutely has. That's why I think it needs to be created by potentially Garrett or his office in order to make sure that that is clear in the job description, anyway.
I can start working on that. I just want to make sure I understand exactly what we want out of this position. So obviously, this position is not going to be law enforcement, so this position can't, pull a person over and give speeding tickets, things like that. But what they can do as a code enforcement is enforce our current makeup of kind of civil violations, which is kind of where I was wrestling with the manure ordinance is how do you make that enforceable? And we kind of landed on this structure. So the code enforcement, what all do you want them? Do you want them to work with Mr. Archer on the planning and zoning side and enforce our current array of violations? Who are they going to report to? Kind of that's kind of the questions. And once I know that, and they could report directly to you, but still, like for instance, take building code inspectors. So many counties have a building inspector and then separately planning and zoning. Here, they're all kind of one. So you anticipate this person kind of
I think they should report to us.
Yeah, I agree that they should report to the commissioner. To, I guess, answer your question, and these are just my thoughts. Obviously, we're in the process of creating a new comprehensive plan that would also include nuisance ordinance as well. So I think that we should, when we create that comprehensive plan, decide to what extent this position also has responsibility, for example, a new nuisance ordinance and or planning and zoning. Off the top of my, or just having been posed that question, I still think Mark Archer should be responsible for building enforcement and or condemning buildings, because I don't know that this person is going to have that skill set. But I think, so as we create that,
You think they work together though? Like
I think they'll have to work together to some extent.
because there's overlap and, because you wouldn't want this person to just do, for instance, manure bags. This
Right.
person's got to do other things as well.
Correct.
Which we've got other things for them to do, but a lot of those things do fall under, planning, zoning, building department. So that's where, they would, you're envisioning kind of a county employee reporting to the commissioners, but kind of working closely with, planning and zoning / building department as needed. Fair to say? What other things with this person?
Yeah, I don't think you want Mark to pawn work, I mean, that's not the word, but in other words, pawn work off. I don't want Mark to be, hey, I need you to do this. That should never become the case. Because Jamie's point, that we don't know that we're gonna hire somebody that has any skill set in building and zoning enforcement. But the codes that we have on the books for, or ordinances rather, they can enforce those, the license plate ordinance, the food and ag when that goes, the manure ordinance when that happens, those kind, they can do that.
Do some stuff, if we pass something like that.
Yeah, so there's currently like a blight
Like,
in the current comprehensive plan. To me, those can be pulled out and fall under the umbrella of this particular position. So the nuisance relative to, vehicles and other, I want to say junk, for lack of a better word, that is the original intent of the nuisance ordinance. So that would fall underneath this same position. So I'm not so sure that when we create the comprehensive plan, we can, I'll say, pick and choose which aspects of that comprehensive plan fall under this position. And correct me if I'm wrong, because I've never done it, so I don't know.
you don't wanna, it's, from my standpoint, you wouldn't wanna say, you'll enforce this, that can be very confusing, I think, one day. So I think you wanna get to the point where everybody's working together in a cohesive direction. And then is this a full-time position we're talking?
It's in the budget as a full-time position.
Do you want them to do anything else, like county administrator, kind of notes secretary or anything, or just code enforcement?
We had discussed as well as potentially some
I don't know how much,
commissioner's assistants type or something.
I don't know how much code enforcement there is. Just off the top of my head, I'm not sure if that would be, if this person's only writing tickets, so to speak, and kind of going through that process. They work with us to draft the appropriate thing, show up to court when needed. I'm not sure if that's a full-time position in and of itself, and it would kind of go with maybe some of this.
I don't
We
think there's
discussed that would probably be a year of doing a lot of that. And then he or she could go into other things, for us.
Right.
kind of be a liaison between insurance companies and help Gail out so she doesn't have everything.
Would you want that off the bat, kind of in the description, or not? That's kind of, because you want to, if you're going to hire somebody and you think that might be where you head, you want to have that in the discussion.
The difficult portion, I think, to Joe's point and to the conversation we previously had, is we think the code enforcement position will be very busy the first year or
Okay, so
two.
you think they'll need it months?
But after that, obviously, people's gonna start taking doing what they're supposed to do, right? Hopefully. And so the need for that position should become less, is our opinion. Now, I don't have a crystal ball here and rub and guarantee that that's the case, but I would think that, I know if I'm in violation of an ordinance, and I see my neighbor's getting fined or whatever the case may be, I'm gonna go ahead and clean mine up without somebody having to tell me to do so, right? So logically, the demand for that position should lessen over time, I guess would be the best way to put it.
My question from the legal standpoint here is, we can write ordinances all day long, $100 fine, whatever. Do we have the civil process in place, or what do we need to do to have the civil process in place to enforce these? Such as, right now, I can fine you $100, but you have a right to an appeal. Yet we don't have that capability right now in Switzerland County to offer you the right to an appeal. How do we put those steps in place so that this is an effective process?
Yeah, so a couple of things there. I mean, that's part of the code enforcement's job, is to go give the notice, say this is what you're owed, then you gotta follow up. So the following up is going to court. That's where we come in to work on that side. There are other elements, so nuisance ordinances, blight ordinances. Sometimes the statutes allow you to write an ordinance in such a way that you give notice and say, this is what's going to happen in 10 days if you don't correct it yourself. And then you can go on and fix whatever the problem was yourself. And then you can put it on their tax bill later. So it depends on the issue, but in a lot of ways, our ordinances are set up that way. That's why I was trying to set up the manure ordinance, so that they had the civil process set up. So they levy the fine, they come to us, and we take it to court, so it's enforceable, and then you can start attaching it on the tax sales, things like that.
And one last thing that I had, it's my understanding that if counties don't have certain ordinances in place, potentially in the near future, the state's going to start creating those ordinances, and then everybody will just have to follow the state
Yes,
rule, I guess.
So in particular with building codes, there was a bill that did pass that addressed certain conditions and what you can do with certain housing requirements, with certain zoning requirements. You can opt out of that, but the presumption is that these certain areas can control. And then there's certain times when we need to make sure that we are taking these steps to get our comprehensive plan updated now, which I think we're taking those steps. I'm gonna follow up with SERC, see where we were, because I think the first step with them was getting, which you guys approved, the survey done. And then once the survey is done, then I think they were gonna fund the first half. And then once we do a comprehensive rewrite, because I think what the important part of this too is not piecemealing. The comprehensive rewrite makes a lot of sense to me, so that you're not saying, oh, we're gonna fix the blight and we're gonna fix this, but how does it fit into the grand scheme of everything? And then the second half of that is making sure that what's written there is part of the whole plan, but also enforceable from our standpoint. Does that make sense? So.
Well, yeah, because that's what we've run into before, is it's not necessarily enforceable.
Yeah, and sometimes, like take for instance, what I was explaining with the, give them notice and then you can correct it if they don't. If your job is to go onto another person's property and correct that, if you have legal ability to be there and fix that because you're not in compliance, I mean, we're in Southeast Indiana. I don't know what happens when you enter onto a person's property. I mean,
We don't want to go on with
So
that.
there's a certain amount, you probably want somebody in the position that's not just gonna be a ball in the china shop in a lot of ways, but might work with people. They have that ability, but that's probably not the first direction you wanna go, because there could be some confrontation there. You've probably seen some of that, in particular when you're looking at, because Dusty may run into this, when you're looking at drains and legal drains, and the surveyor has the ability, if you give a person notice that their drain, the legal drain is blocked, he can just go on there, fix it, and then put it on your tax bill. Statute allows him to do. I don't know if we've ever had to do that, but. Yeah. So I can start working on that, and then I'll check on CERC and bring that back to see exactly where we are, so we can start the process of getting comprehensive plan and the actual ordinances updated.
Thanks. And I apologize for not being clear on what it exactly is that I want, because I'm not sure I know what exactly I want.
No, that's where I will just give you guys some drafts to take a look at, just to see, because I'm thinking you probably want to be clear from the beginning. This is more of a commissioner's kind of assistant / code enforcement, because what you don't want to do is bait and switch. Code enforcement, and then after a year, they've cleaned it up, and then,
Or we're gonna add this.
yeah, now, oh, suddenly we're doing that. So that's why I wanted to understand where you guys wanted to see it long term.
Your turn.
So I'm Paige Sansone with Baker Tilly. This county has a cumulative capital development fund, and the rate is currently 0.0157. And that fund can be used for a wide variety of capital projects and improvements. The maximum rate by statute is 0.0333. So you can increase the rate on that, and you can do it by May 31st and start getting that additional revenue in 2027. And the additional revenue would amount to about $100,000 a year. It is a very minimal impact to the taxpayers. In fact, $100,000 home value, the impact would be $5 for the entire year. It's only a 1% impact to the tax bill. It's a pretty simple process. The commissioners are the authority to adopt that reestablished rate. Basically, at some point in the past, you were at that maximum rate. But there was a stipulation in the statute that as your assessed value increased, that rate would go down. It was like trending downward. So there would be a neutral impact. Well, that trending calculation was taken out of the statute, I think it was about 5 or 6 years ago. So most entities, counties, municipalities are reestablishing at the max, and then you won't ever have to worry about it again. It'll just stay at the maximum rate. Again, the process is pretty easy. You can just, we would advertise for a public hearing. You would hold a public hearing at one of your meetings in April. Then there would be a notice of adoption that would be published that would kick off a 30-day remonstrance period. So people from the public, at least 25 or more people, can file an objection if they wanted to with the county auditor. Typically, we don't see objections, but if there is an objection, then the state would come out and hold a hearing and listen to whatever the objections would be. But that's really all there is to it. Again, minimal impact, but yet you would get an additional $100,000 a year to add to what you're currently getting. You're about 100 and let's see, you are right now at about 90,000. So this would generate about another 100,000 based on your current net assessed value. So,
And Paige, you said that's $5 per 100,000 assessed value?
yeah. So if you have a $100,000 home value, you could expect to see maybe a $5 increase to your tax bill for the whole year. And that's if your net assessed value didn't go up. If it does go up, you probably wouldn't see any. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I'll say about your 15 or 20 bucks for the average house.
Yeah,
Account,
yeah,
$5,000.
So you'll get the process started for us?
We can, yeah. So I sent updated
Yes.
agreements to the council and the auditor last month. And if you sign those agreements, one of the things was reestablishing your Cume Capital Development. So as soon as you sign those agreements and we get the go-ahead, we'll start working. But we also sent an updated agreement for budget services if you should have any assistance or need any assistance there, and then updating your long-term financial plan if you should need that. It doesn't obligate you. It just, if you call and say, hey, we need some help, then we would be able to help you. So the council should have those, and I sent copies to the auditor. So yeah, if you tell us to go ahead, we'll get that process rolling. We'll prepare all the paperwork for you and get the process rolling. Any questions? My presentation was simple compared to the insurance.
I think it's a no-brainer for a county to make $100,000 when you're only impacting a homeowner anywhere from $5 to maybe
Maybe
$50 if
Yeah.
they live in an absolute stunning home
Right.
a year. So I'd make a motion. What do I need to do? Decrease this to .0333? Is that just start the process, right? That's just to start the
Yes.
process.
Okay, and then we need to sign our agreement as well.
Yeah, I don't know what the status is of those. I think I had a couple, or maybe I put it all in one agreement, but yeah, just make sure we get that. I mean, me getting verbal approval, I can go ahead and start, but we do need those signed agreements also.
So I'll make a motion to give verbal approval to increase the rate to .0333%. That's the right motion.
They're gonna start, that I think will give them enough to start the process.
Yes.
So,
I'll second. All in favor? Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Joe, corner vehicle?
I came down today, hoping, I know we talked about a little bit last year with you, and you guys purchased me a cooler last year, which has been, great for the coroner's office. We're at the point with coroner's vehicles that I don't have a reliable vehicle. We have the, Durango that was old town Durango. And I don't know, you know, I'm not trying to throw anybody under the bus here, but I don't know if you guys know what kind of shape those vehicles were in. Some people could attest that essentially those vehicles are 10 years old now, that Durango. When they were in use as police vehicles, they essentially ran for 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, whether it was 105 degrees or 5 degrees outside. So there's a lot of hardware on those vehicles. I've made that Durango work. As you know, the coroner's vehicle that was a 1997 Astro van it's sitting in my used car lot down there, but it's no longer drivable. It's got a transmission issue. EMS was kind enough to kind of recommend an ambulance for whatever reason. I don't know what the issue is with that, but I can't keep it running. I've had 8 coroner calls this year, 8 call outs this year. They're going to result in 8 coroner calls. Of those 8 calls, I've transported 3 of them myself with the coroner's vehicle, 1 with the ambulance, 2 with the Durango. And I'll caveat the Durango here in a second. I've had EMS has had to transport 3 for me. They also, just the other day, let me borrow an EMS that belonged, or an ambulance that belonged to them that was in the Patriot Firehouse that I had to drive down and get to pick up a deceased. And Haskell Morrison allowed me to use their van for one of them. I call out in the middle of the night, I couldn't get anything started. I guess what I'm asking is, obviously the coroner's office doesn't have much of a budget. Last year, we had more coroner call outs than I think we've probably had in the history of the county. I think we had 37 call outs, 29 of those resulted in coroner cases. And I perceive that trend will stay on the upkeep. You know, baby boomers are starting or have reached or passed the age of average life expectancy. So I would say, based on where we're at just in March 2nd, that we're probably on track for another one of those years. And I would expect that uptick to keep up for the next several years. Having said that, it's gotten to the point where the coroner's office absolutely needs a reliable vehicle. Of course, I would like to do that as cheap as possible for the county. But as of right now, every time, you know, I try to, the Durango's the only one I got running right now. It was having electrical issues. I'm not sure in what process that when that was a police vehicle, what was added to it. I finally found the electrical problem in it. Somebody had driven a screw. Of course, I don't know if you guys know those Durangos, the seat or the battery's under the passenger seat, and the battery cable runs along the floorboard for whatever reason. Somebody had driven a screw down through the floorboard that was through the hot battery cable, which was grounding it out, which was causing windows to roll up and down and not start and draining the battery. I believe I have that issue fixed. It is running now. I mean, hopefully the next, if I get called tonight, hopefully I show up and it runs, or I'm going to have to ask Ryan and his crew to help me out again. I would like to not have to do that. the coroner's office hasn't had a new vehicle since 1997 or 98 when that van was purchased. So I'm asking at this point, of course, I would like to shop around, but I guess I'm asking for your approval to try to find a vehicle at a good cost and try to get the coroner's office a reliable vehicle.
Well, the ambulance should never be in the equation anyway. I want to make that was a temporary fix.
Right.
No small county coroner's office should be operating a full-size ambulance. It's not even running right now. One thing that I want to see, and I know Ryan, I had already asked him, I want to be able to start getting some of these vehicles, if we make this decision, onto the Gov Deals account. We need to start making some money off of the stuff we have sitting around. Dustin might have something out there. We need to start utilizing that account and sell some of these things that we have. I obviously would ask for quotes for vehicles, something that's going to service you and what you need. I know you had talked about it one time a year ago, pickup with an 8-foot bed and a metal cap on it.
Right. That's so Dearborn County, of course, they have a really nice setup, but they have a couple pickup trucks. They got the auto loader in the back. Of course, I don't need anything that fancy. I just need a cot lock back there. And you're right, they do have a camper shell. But I think a work truck with a single cab, work truck with an 8-foot bed and a shell on top of it would do our coroner's office just fine. I know that's probably one of the cheaper vehicles you can get. I will say this: the Durango has serviced the coroner's office, but I'm just going to say, not to get too gruesome, but for larger people, that's not ideal to try to get a cot with a larger person in the back of a Durango. It's just, I can make it work because I have to, but it's not. It makes the job a lot harder than it needs to be.
There's a maximum height in that too, isn't
There is. You don't. So if anybody's a little bit bigger than me, it's a struggle. And like I said, not to get too gruesome because I'm not trying to do that, but if we have a decomp and I have to drive that person for an autopsy, they're right next to me for 2 hours. So that's not ideal either. So I would like to try to find something that services us a little bit better than what we have.
Joe, just real quick, it doesn't sound like this is a new problem. And I don't remember if you originally had a vehicle in the budget or not. So my question is, number one, did we include a vehicle in the budget that got taken out?
I did not. So I did not include a vehicle in the budget. So there was some things that the coroner's office needed. The vehicle was something that we needed last year because the van just simply it's at the end of its life. And I thought that I didn't want to come and ask for a $12,000 cooler last year and a new vehicle. So you guys were kind enough to let me use the Durango. That was having some issues for a while. So we got the ambulance to temporarily kind of fix that, but that's a used ambulance as well. And right now I'm not a service expert on the ambulance, but I can't even get the thing started. And beyond charging the batteries, buying new batteries, I don't know what else to do with it. I don't have a budget to fix vehicles. As a matter of fact, I have a $500 vehicle maintenance budget right now that I have to pay fuel out of. And I bought new batteries for that Durango and the ambulance. And I've paid for those out of my own pocket right now and haven't turned in the receipt.
Should we doing that?
Well, I shouldn't be, but I also have to account for what my fuel costs are going to be. And that's the vehicle maintenance budget of $500 is the only account that I have to reimburse myself for fuel.
So you should turn in your expenses for the 2 batteries. And if you need to come back and ask for additional appropriations, then you just need to come back and ask.
I understand.
Appropriations.
I don't like to do that. You're given a budget and I like to stay within that.
The reason I asked the question is because we're 2 months into a new year. If we were having a situation, it'd have been great if when you filled out your budget, you just said, hey, I've got to do something. We still have to make the same decision regardless, right? But I think it'd been important to have it in the budget so that it could also have gotten discussion from council at that time as well.
When I did my budget hearing, that was mentioned. I brought up that a new vehicle was needed, but obviously you guys know how budget hearings went last year, that
Flawless.
yeah, there was asking what I can get rid of, and I didn't have a whole bunch. I didn't have a whole bunch to get rid of. So, you know, I didn't feel that it was appropriate to say, hey, you're asking me to cut money out of a budget that doesn't really exist, but you know, I need 35,000 for a new vehicle.
No, I'm fine with getting quotes. Certainly we don't ask the highway department to do a job with no tools, right? And we shouldn't ask you to either.
We're gonna take care of our receipts in a proper manner.
So-
Yeah, if they've not bought a vehicle since '97, let's not.
Yeah, I
let's
didn't
not go
realize
cheap.
the Durango.
I'm not
was
trying to
that
get a
much.
Denali.
Right.
But
I mean, I don't think that, I mean, you know, I think a newer or a new single cab pickup truck with an 8-foot bed and whatever, you know, I think maybe we could use a local business to get the shell for it, over the bed, but that shouldn't be in the grand scheme of what vehicles cost. I think we can get one of those pretty reasonable, and, you know, it doesn't need anything but a steering wheel and wheels and a new engine in it, to be honest with you, so.
So it sounds like we can see you again in 2 weeks.
Yes.
On the next.
I just wanted to come and kind of gauge where you guys were at with that, and I can start working on some prices of some new vehicles tomorrow and be back in 2 weeks.
New as in new to you or brand new?
Like new to me, like
Okay.
it don't have to be a brand new vehicle. A vehicle that's gonna be able to.
New or low
Yeah,
mileage,
yeah,
right?
right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Board reports, the only one that I have is the handbook committee met again. We'll meet again a week from today. It's a slow process because we found out that there's a lot of little articles in the big beautiful bill that the Trump administration passed, and we have to make sure we are following things to a T. You get fined pretty heavily if you don't under that bill. So I said, we've met twice, and we'll meet again a week from today.
yeah, just one thing for myself. You know, I said this a year ago. If not directed at Ryan or Dusty, if you're driving a county-owned vehicle, which is a taxpayer vehicle, we have one that's sitting at the courthouse that looks like a can of garbage has been dumped in the front seat. So, a year. We have a county-owned building that is staying unlocked on weekends. I'll let you know. That's all I have.
I like it. Board report.
Anything from out yonder?
But those Durangos, they have been pretty rough. I've put a lot of money into the one that I have to keep it going. It goes in next week. It's leaking oil at a pretty good rate right now. But you would think it would be a simple repair as an oil pan gasket. That oil pan gasket, they got a little rack on the front. That's $2,800 that you need to do.
Got you.
It was a used box not too long ago.
For your information.
$3,000. Because it had a control module in it.
They weren't high mileage vehicles, right? Like
That
80,000 or
turned
something?
90. I think that one has, it's probably about the same boat. That one was a little bit rougher.
Anything else? All right, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Hi. It's easy. With practice, you'll get better.